So for our Field Strong program, what we typically do is we come into locations, we get our group of guys to come in about 3 or 4 at a time, and we start out by getting some basic biometrics. We take their age, we get a little bit of an injury history profile, like, you know, do they have any current aches and pains, just kind of see where they're currently at. Then we go in and we go ahead and do a weight. We check their weight on a scale, and then based on that weight, we then go into our body fat check. They just hold the device, hold it out in front of them for a few seconds, and then we record that body fat percentage we get using this device here. Outside of that, we just kind of have a brief talk with them about what we're going to be doing, but we're going to go into our strength component, and we're going to go into our mobility component as well too. So now we're going to go into our mobility assessment part. We're going to measure shoulder mobility first. So we're going to test internal and external rotation on opposite arms. So all the participant's going to do is we're first going to measure the length of their hand to kind of give a baseline for our minimum standard for this individual. It's about 7 1/4. He's going to make fists. He's going to bring one hand into internal rotation and one arm and hand into external rotation. I'm going to measure the distance between the two. So this, we're going to call this his left side. We're going to put it on the knuckles and measure to the upper knuckle. It's about 10. And then we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. That is about a 13 on the right. So a 10 on the left and a 13 on the right for Tim here. Then we're going to take him over to the mat. He's going to lay down on the mat. And we're going to test his hip mobility. And again, we're just looking for minimum standards here. We're not trying to say you're phenomenal or you're bad. We're just trying to see where this individual's at. We're going to flex his toes in towards his shins. I'm going to put the stick right at his knee. He's going to slowly lift up his right leg. And we're just basically looking if he can get that heel past this stick. So he got it on that side. And what we're also looking for is he lifts that leg, lift it one more time. We're also making sure this leg here does not move as well because we want a disconnection from right and left legs. We'll do the same thing on the opposite side. Just to see if they're both the same, we'll bring her down. So for him, he passed that particular assessment there. Come back up, Tim. We'll do one more assessment. This is just a body mechanics, just to see how people move, see how stiff possibly their hips or their shoulders are or their ankles are. He's just gonna hold the stick on his head, get his arms about 90 degrees. He's gonna lift the arms straight up overhead, bring his feet shoulder width apart. He can slightly angle out his toes, but I don't want him like going really out there. All I'm gonna have him do is just squat down, nice and controlled, and then come up. We're just looking at how well they move, how deep they can get into the squat, how far forward the bar gets, all those types of things. Now, if someone has really, really stiff ankles and we can just tell, we might elevate their heels just to see if that's one of the limiting factors for them. They'll do the same setup, they'll do the same squat, just with heels elevated. Typically, we're going to see people be a little more upright because their ankles won't be their limiting factor as much anymore. We're also just seeing, do they load their right or left sides more? Are they equal? All those types of things, and we record all that. That's it for the mobility segment. Our last part of the assessment, we're going to do some strength tests just to kind of see where we're at. Again, we're not looking for anything in terms of are you super strong? Are you super weak? We're kind of looking for just minimum standards that we want to hold people to. So the first thing we do is we test the grip strength using our hand dynamometer. We're going to do right and left hands. So we baseline it off to 0. He's going to squeeze it for about 3 seconds as hard as he can. He's going to let go. We'll get a recording for his right hand. We'll reset it. And then we'll do the same thing for his left hand. And we're just trying to see, is there any big discrepancies from right to left side? Is there any pain when squeezing? And do we have a minimum amount of strength? So we're looking for anything above 110 pounds on each hand is what we kind of really want to see. But we've seen people get up to 190, but all the way down to like 90. So there's a pretty big range here. We just want to make sure we're getting guys up to a minimum standard there. Next, we'll do the kneeling hip extension. We have our device here. We just have our participant get into the device. And this we're testing, again, mechanics. We want to see how well their hips move and if their back and core can brace properly as opposed to using lower back to lift. We want it to be a brace here. We want our glutes and our hamstrings to do the majority of our lifting. So we have the participant straight up, knees lined up with their shoulder. They're going to bend at their hip and come forward to about a 90-degree angle. And then they're going to pause there and they'll come all the way back up. And we're looking at this does not round, that they're driving through with their hips. and we're just seeing how many reps they get. Ideally, we want to see someone be able to get about 15 reps. Participant can stop at any point that they feel uncomfortable. We can also modify this if needed. And we see quite a wide variety in this particular movement. We see people who can do it. Tim, go ahead and do it around your back a little bit. We'll see people sometimes come down really around their back and then pull up with their back and use their back to lift. And that's kind of what we're looking to avoid. So part of it is to see how they just instinctively move. And sometimes we can make easy corrections right then and there to kind of show them. Sometimes it takes a little more effort in the programming to get them to start to learn how to move correctly. All right, you can pop out of there. Next, we'll do an upper body test. We're really looking at this strength on the back side of our body. So we're going to do a hanging row. They're going to lay in here to make sure when they lay in here that they get their head on the outside of the bars. They're going to lift their hips and keep their body nice and straight. They're just going to pull up until their elbows get about even with the rib cage, and they're going to come back down. This is all about control, up and down. We're looking to see, do they move their hips or can they maintain that flat body as they move up and down? We're also looking, do they shrug their shoulders when they pull up, or do they keep their shoulders down? And again, same thing here, we're looking for if they can get about 15 reps. Now that's regardless of body weight, so the more people weigh, a little bit harder for them, but we still want them to have that minimum standard. The last thing we'll assess from a strength standpoint is a little bit of core strength. And we're going to do a side plank. What they're going to do is they're going to lift their hip, keep their body nice and straight, and they're going to hold that, keeping the shoulder back and everything in line for 15 seconds. And then when they get to that 15-second mark, if they feel like they can, they're going to lift this top leg and continue holding for another 15 seconds. So if they can go a full 30 seconds, that's meeting our standard. Some people can do the leg down, but not the leg up. We just make note of that as we go along. So we bring it down, and we switch to the other side. Now, so just test the other side to see if there's any differences from right to left. Again, if people have any shoulder issues, any type of back issues, we modify all these types of things. So if someone is not comfortable doing this, we can give them another option. The same thing, hold 15, both legs together, and then that second 15 with that top leg on. That concludes the strength part.